Hey everybody, welcome back to the Capes Cast podcast. I'm Jeremy,
No, I'm Ryan.
and today's episode is going to be about Doom or Ultimates issue number 4,
Which is all
which
about Doom.
according to Dennis Camp,
Oh
who
yeah,
is a huge troll.
yeah.
I mean, he you
That was
know,
good promotion though. That was good marketing.
oh yeah, dude, for sure.
That was good
Yeah,
promotion.
he trolled online on Twitter saying, "Oh, if you want to know about the origins of Robert Doomey Jr., RDJ Doom, like read it." He was trolling, just trying to build hype for his book. And I'll tell you this right now. There is nothing that the MCU could do to even come close to the what is in this issue. This is probably like if I had a top 10 list of best issues of the year, this is on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
This is 100% on it.
I agree.
I I do I'm not sure why the change to Phil Noto for the art here, but I really enjoyed it. I thought
I,
it
I
like
think it's just one of those things of them giving the other artists a break, and that's
yeah.
probably why they just went on this
And
Doom deep dive.
I'm never gonna say no to Phil Noto. Like I love his art. Like I just think he has like such a like simple style, but he does good with like emotion. It's hard to explain. Like he just has like he just fits. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
this
I
doesn't
really
really have
enjoyed
that
it.
much action in it, so it's
Yeah,
like,
it's very just like character driven,
yeah.
so he doesn't have to do a whole lot of like ridiculous stuff.
Hmm.
And everything he does is just solid. I think it's just a really good character issue. Um, so like a little bit of backstory on the Ultimate Doom. If you didn't read Ultimate Invasion and Ultimate Universe, you have a little bit of an idea of who he is. You know that it's Reed. You know that he was tortured by the Maker, but we don't know how.
Right,
We learn this is the issue where we learn all of that. In Invasion and Universe, the Maker had taken Doom and just dropped him in this lab and said, "You have to work on this, and this is what your only task is. This is what you're meant to do." And he was busted out by Iron Lad. He joined the Ultimates and he became part of the team. But he's been working on a side project trying to recreate the Fantastic Four.
right.
And that's essentially what half of this issue is about, while telling us that, like, filling in the gaps on what happened to him with the Maker. Uh Half of it is him like recollecting, but also it's him watching, you know what
Yeah,
I mean? Seeing that alternate like Earth 616 and what he's supposed to be, and remembering things and replaying events back in his mind.
right.
So it's just like it has to weigh on him, at some point.
Oh, the trauma is this is probably the
Yeah.
most traumatized Doom we've ever seen,
Yeah.
at this point.
So and for all intents and purposes, like his origin's pretty much the same, or at least up until that point when they launch the rocket and they miss it by a mark, but which we find out is not any fault of this Reed.
Right. The maker
You
went
know,
in and started a
Yeah,
race
the
and was
Maker
messing
had
with
gone
everyone.
in and just really like had just changed up his formulas and made it so that he was off just a little bit. And then not to mention it caused a lot of the other problems, like a lot of other problems for Reed, like the they were so worried about being funded and how like he was going to get canceled because he was going over budget, and there were a lot of other complications they just couldn't get it figured out. And and it's just like at every stop Reed is just faced with this, hey, like it's not like it's not going to work out. Sorry buddy, like maybe next time, maybe on down the
Right.
line, like we got something else for you. But then you start to see uh like the military has kind of made this stance of like, well, the government's like, well, we can't, this is not going to happen. And then we learn that they start to like die,
Right.
like Ben is found at the bottom of a rock, well, it looks like a rock quarry, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says disgraced test pilot. So it's like we know for almost for certain that the Maker had a hand in this.
Right.
Um, and I think visually, like you have to pay attention. It's not just something that you can like read and kind of gloss over the images.
Right. Because it's
Like,
constantly going, like each page has like three different timeline things that's going
yeah,
on.
it's like
It's
three
like
events happening
Doom.
at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much.
So and then as like the issue goes on, like you're learning more and more like how the maker has intervened, like changing his formulas, like probably talking to certain people or influencing an event this way or causing a apparent suicide, for Ben. Like
Right,
there's a lot of things that the maker has his little fingers in. So
right. Because Johnny
and
blew up. Basically caught on
yeah,
fire.
Johnny blew up, yeah. And then
Sue's
Sue,
cells are like basically just flying away from one another and just dissipating. So
yeah,
she's dying. So Reed is literally at her bedside in a prison outfit because he's to blame for all this.
right.
And it's even what's really crazy too is like what Sue's father tells him and says, "Now hurry up! You killed my children, Richards. I curse the day I saw your face." And it immediately goes back to a picture of Doom.
Yeah, with his mask on.
Yeah,
I and I think as far as like the three timelines go, the conversation between Doom and Iron Lad,
yes,
it
that's in the present. In the present, yeah,
it is it's like a heavy conversation between them because like it's this classic because like in 616 like Reed and Tony don't always get along but they manage to set aside their differences and save the world at the end of the day. I don't know that that's going to be the case here with these two.
right.
They seem to be pushing themselves in very opposite directions. Like Doom has already said, like I'm a part of this team because I need to be, and because I have like there's a reason why I'm here, and it whether you need to know it or not, like that's up to me.
Which we
Like
pretty
he's
much
very
find out what
vague
it is.
about, yeah, he's very vague about what he's doing, and it's probably this, honestly.
Well, he tells them, I think it was like a couple issues ago, where he says, "I won't be on every mission. I have other
Yeah,
things I need to take care of."
yeah, yeah, and Tony, I think up until literally right now, has been pretty understanding of that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He's pretty much saying like, hey, like you got your own thing going on. It is what it is. But then like he like interrupts him. And he's like, you missed another mission. We really needed you. If it wasn't for America, Giant Man would be dead.
right,
And he's like asking like what happened to your hands? He's like, I was doing an experiment. And then he just asked like, what have you been doing? So I think this is kind of interesting. This little like line right here. I suffer from periods of extreme despair. During these periods, it is as if I am oppositely charged, lost in an all-consuming universe where nothing is possible. I call it my negative zone. Will there be a negative zone in the Ultimate Universe? I doubt it.
right,
And if there is, it may not even necessarily look like Annihilus and the Annihilate. What I mean, like it may not have any of that. It may just be something more akin to like it's a pocket universe of his.
right.
And this is very like, obviously speculative and taking it literally for what it is. But I
Right.
just don't think that that will go that route because that
Yeah.
seems more mystical and magical, where this seems very science based. But then again, with Black Panther kind of heating up and X-Men kind of going the more like mystical route,
Yeah.
it seems very science based. But I wouldn't be surprised if we go into like a more of like a mystical, magical era at some point throughout, you
Yeah.
know. Um, I think the Iron Man and Doom stuff was like my favorite bit of it. I mean, obviously the origin is really good too, but like finding out how he got tortured and what happened. But it just implies so much. You know what I mean? Like you can see like how tenuous their relationship is right now, and it's only going to get worse the more Doom like puts himself into his work.
Right. Because they're very challenging to each other. They're challenging
Yeah,
each other very hard.
yeah, for sure. Um, there was one other thing here at the end.
Oh, and he basically what he's working on is called Project Four.
Yeah,
He,
yeah, to recreate the Fantastic Four.
right. Which is basically I think this is like one of the best covers of the year, to be honest with you. Like,
Oh yeah, dude, it's just absolute. It's so
yeah,
clean.
yeah, I love that cover. So it's just like, seeing the mice, seeing what he's doing, just I don't know. And I'm really loving just a tangent. We'll go back to what we're talking about, but I'm really loving that they do this now, like with the first page
They like
where
recap it.
no, no, like the just like it gives you the
Oh yeah,
cover with that with
yeah, like
no
the
graphic.
insides, like the virgin version of it. Yeah,
Yeah, and I
it's really
kind of like
nice.
that.
Um, these last couple of pages when it's just Doom torturing him, I or when it's Maker torturing him,
Yeah. It's pretty dark, dude.
it's like tragic, bro. It's
It's
just
really dark. It's super dark.
yeah. I when I read this the first time, I was like, oh my God, bro.
Right.
It's like, oh my God. And to see him like to see his reaction to watching the playback of it all and how like he's just pounding his fists into the screen.
Yep.
Like it's like I mean, obviously it's something he's never gonna get over, you know?
Right.
So he just has to accept it, and it's just like the most painful thing that he has to relive. It's like twisted in a way. It almost seems like he's watching it as a motivator. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Because
like,
he wants to make it right, but he'll
yeah,
never fix it for
right.
himself.
He can never fix himself, but he wants to do everything in his power to at least be able to bring the Fantastic Four into this world.
Right.
Um, yeah, and it's very like it almost seems like it's very Maker in the way of like he lived through it, but now he's using his own pain and torture as a motivator for something bigger and grander and maybe potentially more dangerous.
Right.
You know, I
Because what happens when, I mean, it gives a lot of thought ideas for what could happen in the future, but
right,
it can get to a point where, like, what if he does bring the Fantastic Four back, and then basically he has disagreements with himself, with Reed, with a different
right,
version of
right,
himself.
and I mean, we already had a little bit of this conversation the other day, but like, I mean, I think this issue alone, like, just is just filling my head with so many ideas. You know, like when we talked about it the other day, and the potential idea that the Maker could literally be out here just like almost encouraging another version of himself to be made
Right.
because and it just goes back to 1610 Reed, you know, to original like when he was in his original universe before he was the Maker. You know, he had all these things happen to him. It was just like
He lost Sue.
he lost Sue, yeah. So like in a weird way, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, where even though he's not like the Mr. Fantastic. He's still a Reed Richards, and he still ends up going down this path, you
Right.
know, and it's almost like it's inevitable for him to either become someone like 616 Doom or someone like the Maker. Like he's left with only like really limited choices, I think, in the end game,
Right.
unless Hickman has some ass pull out of which he might, you know, some other option where it's like something completely different. There's just a lot of cool ideas out there. Plus, this again kind of brings up the prospect of where's 6160 Victor at,
That's the biggest one.
you know?
We
And
haven't
with
heard of Liberia at all.
so like in this week's issue of Ultimate Black Panther, they um they go to Eastern Europe
Okay.
and to go search
Oh
out
yeah,
some
yeah. I read
who's
that. Yeah,
yeah.
keep going.
So like at the end, it looked that kind of I thought that was Steven.
That looked like an old Steven.
I don't he's not Sorcerer Supreme.
He hinted that he
I
knows
think
where it
it
is.
and he says like yeah I can take you to them.
Right. Them.
Is it one? Is it two? My okay, and I my guess would be Victor. It makes sense, Eastern Europe, mystical connection. But the other thing I'm thinking about too is what is his motivation for learning magic in this universe? Did his mom still lose her soul to Mephisto, or is it something different, or is it nothing at all? And he's not, you know, Sorcerer Supreme. Is it a different magical being from the 616? Is it Wanda? Is it Voodoo? Is it somebody else? If it's a them, is it possible that Wanda never left her people because they're both Romani?
Right.
Did Doom and Wanda become Sorcerer Supremes, and their Victor and Wanda are more of a pairing in this and not necessarily at odds?
That would be pretty cool.
Because then that's a really interesting prospect because you have effectively two Dooms, one magic, one tech, and then you have our main Doom who. And that's the other thing I think about too is when is this going to converge with 616? Are we going to see like a 5-person like throwdown with 616 Reed, 6160 Doom, 6160 Victor? 616 Doom and Maker. Like, are we gonna have
There's so many ways they could do that. Like, what if Doom, like, 6160 Doom basically finds out about the Council of Reeds? He'd be able to be a part of it,
exactly?
you know?
And when what's stopping him from doing a whole bunch of shit there? Like with Hickman, anything is possible. It seems like. So I don't even know where. Like any idea, I feel like is valid, but also any idea could be invalid at any
Right.
given point.
I think
So
just Hickman was just like told Dennis Camp, like, swing for the fences. Just if you
yeah,
just go,
well,
go.
like, and I and thinking about like if you break it down, like we're like almost 30 issues into the Ultimate Universe as a whole.
Right. Which doesn't feel like it because we're only
No,
like 9 to 8 issues each, but it does add
right.
up, you know.
Right, like because you have the 5 issues, you have the 4 issues for Ultimate Invasion, you have the one shot for Universe, you've got 8 issues of Ultimate Spider-Man, 8 issues of Black Panther, 6 of X-Men, 4 of this. So that's what 10, 26. I mean, it's like it cracks 30.
Yeah.
It's over 30. And around this time in his Avengers run with both titles, you started to see kind of Doom take a more active role in things, like it wasn't until closer to the end when obviously when you get to like, him the reveal where he's Rabumalal and all the other stuff, but he starts to play a more active role in the series about this point in Avengers.
Right, because this is at this point in Avengers where he's like, "Hey, you're keeping something from me. What the hell? Like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
because
go
like he
against
doesn't
my
know
cousin."
about the Illuminati or anything. Or he does, but he was rejected, right?
Yeah, and he's like basically like, "What happened? Like something happened with like he saw like the incursions were happening, but he didn't know what the
Right.
incursions
And
were."
well, yeah, because didn't he call them to his castle and he's like, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Yeah.
Like,
Why are you here in Latveria right now? Why are you here?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's just so many like possibilities right now for this book or just for the Ultimate Universe in general.
Yeah.
It's weird to think that Marvel and DC are kind of doing the same things.
Oh, and it's
Like
really cool
DC,
because I saw that
yeah,
interview with Snyder, and he said that literally he eye rolled when like the Ultimate Universe came out because he was like, Josh and I like set up this absolute stuff to happen like 3 years ago.
yeah.
So he's like, when it happened, we were just like, oh man. But then he was like, you know what? It's great because it's just more books, more stories, more.
Right. And I'm a very firm believer in that competition drives innovation.
Yeah,
So to take and it really we're seeing it happen like in real time because you're getting brand new like really what I think is kind of well thought out ideas reimaginings for the DC heroes like
yeah,
New 52 was um you know okay received in terms of reboots and new origins, but it was really just a kind of like a half-assed take on the same origin we already knew.
right,
Whereas like there's a reason why this universe exists within the context of the DC multiverse. And we know why the heroes are the way that they are because of Darkseid.
right. His influence made
Yeah,
everybody.
his energy is what's causing all of these, a world without hope. All of these, like, all the cards are stacked against the heroes in this universe. So, like, it's innovative ideas for them. And then on the Marvel side of things, you have Ultimate Spider-Man, which is almost like doing the same thing. Peter Parker in the main universe is just single, broke, sad.
Right,
Ultimate Peter is happy, married, has a successful career, has kids. You know what I mean? So it's like they're both innovative takes on the universes. So it's nice to finally see them doing something
right,
new and fresh that isn't just the same old shit that we've been doing decade after decade after decade.
right. Because the Absolute Universe to me feels like they're doing like the New 52 and Rebirth, but the best parts of one. Like they're like, hey, we're starting something brand new with a
This
new
and I feel
origin,
like
but we're not
this is
throwing
what
away. We're not
this is
throwing
what
away
the new
continuity.
52 should have been.
Right,
Or what it could have been if they made like a 100% commitment to it.
right.
So I don't know, man. Like, I mean, either way, doesn't matter what company or like what side of the fence you're on, or if you're riding the fence on both sides. Like, it's a really good time to get into either Marvel and DC.
Mhm.
So it's just nice to have stuff to read that's good and interesting and new.
It's also it's good to have something that doesn't have decades upon decades of backstory. Just something you could just
Yeah.
jump in and you're up.
Right. And it's cool because you get a lot of characters in these books, at least in the Ultimate books, that if you have like a passing familiarity with,
Yeah.
you can just get by with just that.
Right.
Like X-Men, I feel like X-Men out of the three of them, if you don't know shit about X-Men, it is the most approachable book.
Yeah.
It's got cool art. It's simple to follow along with. It's not a huge time commitment to read each month. It's a simple story. It's from a popular artist. And hell, there are people that aren't even in comics that know who Peach Momoko is, that aren't in comics and they know who she is.
Right.
So it's like it's definitely the most approachable of all the series, apart from Spider-Man.
Hmm.
Spider-Man, I feel like is one of those books that you can get lost if you haven't been reading some of the other Ultimate stuff. But it's still a genuinely great read if you're just reading it for the first time and you've never read anything else.
Right. You know, and the thing that I think works beautifully is if you just read like Hickman's whole epic, like FF, Avengers, Secret Wars, you can just jump into Ultimate Invasion, and like
Yeah.
you pretty much don't need anything else because it's pretty much just like, hey, the maker's been in prison
Right.
for
It's
a
it's
long
it's
time.
literally just the next chapter in the Marvel universe by Jonathan Hickman.
Exactly. Even though it's like 10 years after the fact almost, it's
Yeah, well, like, and I think this is one of those few instances where I feel like in real life, having a sliding timeline is an advantage
yes,
because
100%.
you know what I mean? It has been 10 real-time years since Secret Wars and the end of his last big epic, but it hasn't really been that many years in universe. You know what
Right.
I mean? So it's almost like at any point Hickman can come, like even in another 10 years, he can come back and do another big epic and say, look, it's only been a couple of years since my last one in universe.
Exactly.
And it doesn't really seem too far out of the realm of reality. So I don't know. Hickman's a master. Like there's no doubt about it.
Right.
Whether you like him or don't like him, like personally as a writer, you cannot get around the fact that he has constructed one of the most like well thought out Marvel stories ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's no way around it. Like it is what it is. It's fact.
What impresses me about Hickman the most is each of his books will have like 10 different scenes, and they're all necessary, and their pacing is always right. And nobody else could really do that. Like that
I
Avengers, like there's so much like that AVA book. There is like so much in that it would take probably other writers like 3 comics to get out, all that information.
right. Like the way I read a comment a couple weeks ago, and the way they describe like Hickman, it's just like cinematic.
Yes.
Like the way that he tells stories, the way that he writes dialogue, the way that he picks the our perfect artist for the perfect moment to draw the perfect scene.
Yep.
It's just like I would describe him as more of like a director, producer, writer rather than just a comic book writer because
And
the dude's a like fucking he's just an animal.
he is.
Like
He's a
he's a completely different beast, bro. Like he just lives and breathes writing. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. Like at the end, it doesn't matter if it's comics, it doesn't matter what it is. He just lives and breathes writing.
Yeah. And not even that, he takes the most like complex concepts and he's able to just wrap his mind around it,
Yeah,
manipulate it, present it in a way that you can understand it.
right.
I don't understand how he does it. Like especially like a lot of that Avengers run is just straight like a sci-fi epic. A lot
Yeah,
of it.
yeah, exactly. Like I mean, and East of West is gonna forever be one of my favorite series now that I finish it. But
Yeah.
like he even like he's a history buff.
Hmm.
He is super knowledgeable on like some sciences. Like he's just an all arounder. You know
He's
what I
into
mean? Like
politics.
he has a lot of political knowledge.
Hmm.
So like and that stuff comes through heavily in his independent stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like Manhattan Project, East of West are all alternate historic takes on the United States. Or
Nightly
even
news, dude. Nightly news.
yeah, Nightly News too. Yeah. Or hell, even Pax Romana
Yeah.
is just an alternate take on history. Like and and all of them have like a defining lesson or like a theme. Decorum is the same way. Decorum is 8 issues, but it's slammed fucking full of content, of beautiful art, of like just like double meanings and the content that he like this in the storytelling. Like I could go on and on about this dude forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not to like shill out for him, but also at the same time, like
his
it worked, but he speaks for itself.
yeah, I mean, he did easily the best, in my opinion, the best Marvel event ever made. In
Yeah.
my opinion, he did
No,
it.
it's yeah,
He nailed
definitely.
it. And not even that. He just the way that he did Secret Wars to make it like the perfect ending to his epic that he was doing. And the fact that like he said that he had a fight with editorial. He had a fight with them about like the last part just being about Reed and Doom. They didn't want that.
Right.
And he's like, no, it has to end here.
They what they probably wanted was a classic Marvel Big Bang like battle
Right,
between all the heroes, all the villains. It's like who cares? Like that's not what that was about. Like
right.
if that was the finale we would have gotten, it would have been the worst Marvel event.
Well, and in my opinion, like usually the event just sets up the next event, right? But with Secret Wars, we got an ending, and I feel like if it was changed at all, it wouldn't have worked.
Right.
We got that
And
ending of Reed fixing the multiverse and giving him his face out of like compassion,
yeah,
giving his face back. And
yeah. I'm a firm believer in that if the Marvel universe, like if Marvel stopped producing comics after Secret Wars, it would have been the perfect ending to the Marvel
oh yeah,
story.
oh yeah, 100%.
Like, yeah, because isn't that last page literally Doom laughing?
Yeah, he literally takes off his mask and laughs. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's just like he just laughs at the idea that Reed still thought of him enough to like fix his
And
face.
the final page was perfect because it goes against like the first issue of New Avengers where it reads like everything
Everything
dies. At the end of
everything
that, it's
lives.
like everything lives. Like, and that's why Doom is laughing because he
Yeah,
realized that
yeah.
everything lives. And it's like only Hickman.
I okay, like I both love and hate talking about Hickman's Avengers because we're at a point now where I love to talk about it because I've read it twice. Well, I've read it once in, release order for the most part, and then I read it in the actual reading order.
Mhm.
But I also hate talking about it because of the MCU.
Oh
The
yeah,
the MCU, and I don't want to like go off on this tangent, but they are like, how can you be so close and so far from greatness? You know what I mean? Like you're like a toe away from greatness, but you're an ocean away from it at the same time. Like it
right.
doesn't make any sense to me because they crafted this multiverse saga in a way where we were seeing incursions throughout it. We were actually building two Secret Wars and not a bunch of random shit that was just happening that you could basically watch in any order.
Hmm.
Like bar what? Spider-Man 3 and Doctor Strange 2. What else do you really need? Okay, Shang-Chi. Like other than the things that have the post-credit scenes that are involving those characters,
Right,
what else do you need? Nothing. You don't need anything. You don't even need Loki, really. You don't even need WandaVision because it gets completely tangent. Like it's a completely different direction in Doctor Strange, and then they drop Wanda off at the end of that. Like
right.
so, and then the other thing too is we've been hearing the rumor that Doctor Strange 3 is supposed to be Time Runs Out. How? How is that possible? How are you going to do Time Runs Out when half of those characters, one, aren't in the MCU anymore? Those actors don't give a shit. And three, you haven't set up 80% of the storylines that get you there.
Right. It's gonna be just so rushed and
Right.
just
And what is it going to be? The universe is collapsing, incursion. Nobody's seen it, but we know what it is. It's like, give me a break.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's where I'm at with it now. Is like, I'm almost just like, I don't even hate it. I just don't care.
Like
I
I
don't even
just
hate it.
see even like with this, we have such like a developed character developed Doom in this that I feel like you can't even get this amount of development in 3 movies that are
Right.
coming,
Right. Exactly.
because you need that. You need to have Doom who we need to see the nuances of Doom. We need to see that, he's a great leader. We need to see that he's, you know, while he might have some authoritarian tendencies, he's very into people and saving people and help saving the world. And
Right. And like,
you
because he
can't
lives
just
in
like
it.
give us a montage of that. You know what I mean? You can't
Yeah.
just
Right. Like, but I think with some characters, you can get away with doing almost like a greatest hits,
yeah,
kind of like a montage, like you said. But with Doom, like you have to do a greatest and worst hits. Like you have to show him all of the times he's saved the Earth, but also all of the times he's put it in danger, and then be able to like realistically like think about, hey, he's a more complex character than just a villain, but he's not always gonna do the right thing.
Right.
So like I don't really think there's any way that they can bring him to screen and do him the justice that they need to do. At least not right now.
I wish Doctor Strange 2 was Triumph and Torment. I really wish it was that, because then you would see like the nuanced relationship that Strange and Doom
If
have.
if they were smart, that is what Doctor Strange 3 should be.
Right.
Or I don't know, do the smart thing and make a Doom movie. Just call it Doom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let Hickman do the scripts.
I mean, honestly, bro, like DC has Tom King writing their scripts.
Yeah.
Why not? And
Right.
okay, can we let's go, let's have that conversation. Why is it that that Marvel Studios is hiring writers and directors that one have zero knowledge about these characters, two, zero desire to learn about them, and three, basically are dog shit writers.
Because they want blockbusters instead of comic accurate movies. They
Okay,
want blockbusters.
okay, think about it this way. Dune is probably one of the most successful movies of the year.
Mhm.
That payoff you don't get unless you watch the first one from 2 years ago, which is almost 3 hours long, and it's all fucking dialogue and talking and world building shit.
Yeah.
You do not get Dune Part 2, which was a fucking epic without Dune Part 1. You
Right.
don't get it. So like it's this instant gratification of, well, it worked the first time, so let's make it faster. Let's do it faster, let's do it more.
Right.
Let's see, you know what I mean? Like it, it's just crazy to me, bro. It's just
Because all
it's
we're
just
getting is a Fantastic Four movie and then an Infinity War style movie and an Endgame style movie. And we expect us to get a
and you're gonna tell
fleshed
me
out Doom that we're
yeah.
gonna care about.
If Doom shows up at all in Fantastic Four, it's the post credit scene.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing, how are you gonna make me give a shit enough about him in two movies when it's mainly just about the heroes saving the day? How are you
Right.
gonna do that?
Yeah.
Like the only reason I gave a fuck about Thanos is because he was being built up throughout. We saw him in Guardians. He was in the background in the original Avengers. Like he's always been there.
And not even that, like you haven't even mentioned Latveria yet. You need to show us why Latveria hasn't even come up. Why Doom hasn't even.
I had seen this theory like years ago about how potentially, I mean, it wasn't a theory, it was just speculation, like a fun idea that somebody threw out there. Sokovia exists. They have a reason to hate the Avengers.
Right.
It is in Europe. Why not have its original name have been Latveria and it was just occupied by a different force, changing its name? Doom comes in after it just got destroyed in Age of Ultron.
Mhm.
You know, basically less than 20 years to where we're at now in the MCU. You have somebody who comes in, who's rich, who's intelligent, and he starts making positive changes in Sokovia. He has, blood ties to it. It's literally, you could just make it the most simple story. You could word for word it out of Marvel Comics.
Right.
He was born of noble birth. All this shit happened. He went to America. Now he's back, and now he's the ruler of Latveria. Sokovia was originally Latveria. The end.
Right.
And then he exists in a world with Stark Industries, Wakanda. You know what I mean? A Doctor Strange.
Mhm.
It's just crazy, bro.
It is.
Like, and the fact that they have the rights to these characters, and half of them are just like this, like literally their thumbs up their asses doing nothing.
Right. And especially like with Doom, who's arguably one of the most important characters in Marvel comic history. Like he's everybody's favorite
There's a
Marvel.
reason why they have to keep going back to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's that guy.
Yeah. And I just hope they get it right, because this is their third time doing a live action Doom. And
Okay, Fan Four Stick does not count.
true.
That
True.
shit does not count, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know what that was. I would rather go back and watch that like 70s movie
Yeah.
again.
I agree. It's terrible stuff.
I I don't know. I over the last I Doom, I like Doom. I really do. But like I don't think up until probably after reading Hickman's Avengers again, when you let me borrow it,
Yeah,
then like just all the Doom stuff that's come out in the last like couple years. He's definitely like a top three now for me,
yeah,
bro. Like for sure.
yeah,
The Maker too. Like the Maker is just such a dastardly asshole.
yeah,
I
dude.
love him though, dude. Every time I see the Maker, I'm like, it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I love it. I just want to know one thing about this Ultimate Universe, and we only have a minute and 20 seconds left, but I just want to leave it with this. Does this universe have a Molecule Man?
I don't know.
And
I don't know, man. Who knows, man?
because we know how powerful he is, and we know Doom uses him. So,
Yeah, and the Maker should have some knowledge of that.
exactly.
So I don't know, man. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Mhm.
Here's one for the audience before we run out of time. If you're watching, leave a comment. What is one question you have about the Ultimate Universe that hasn't been answered yet? All right, guys, that's about it. Thanks for your time. Peace out.
Later on, guys.